The maker of Ozempic lost half its value. Why? So, here's the puzzle. Novo Nordisk didn't just join the weight loss boom, it created it. Ozempic and Wegovy became the most wanted drugs on the planet, and Novo briefly grew into the most valuable company in all of Europe. Demand for these drugs is still exploding, and yet its stock has fallen about 50%, and now trades at under 12 times earnings. The valuation of a business in slow decline, not the inventor of a once-in-a-generation drug. How does the company that made the miracle drug end up in the bargain bin, while the miracle is still selling out? The answer is that inventing a category and owning it are two very different things. First, the core of it. The company that came second built a better drug. Eli Lilly's rival medicine, sold as Zepbound, went head-to-head with Novo's Wegovy, and patients on Lilly's drug lost about 50 pounds over 72 weeks, versus about 33 on Novo's. In medicine, the best molecule wins, and that gap is enormous. It gets worse. Novo's big hope to leapfrog back ahead, a next-generation drug called CagriSema, failed its own trial. It couldn't even prove it was as good as Lilly's drug, let alone better. So, in the space of a year, the pioneer went from owning the category to owning second place. In 2025, Lilly's sales passed Novo's. The crown changed hands. Reason 2. Even the economics turned against it. Late in 2025, a deal with the government cut Wegovy's US price by somewhere between 60 and 80%. And semaglutide, the molecule inside both Ozempic and Wegovy, begins losing its patent protection in markets like Canada, Brazil, and China in 2026. That's the patent cliff, the fate every blockbuster drug eventually meets when cheap copies flood in. So Novo is being crushed from both directions at once. A better competitor pressing down from above, and collapsing prices plus looming generics rising up from below. The most wanted drug in the world is also, suddenly, one of the most price-pressured. Reason 3. The tell that sealed the crash came from Novo itself. When a company is quietly confident, it reassures. Novo did the opposite. It guided that its sales and profit growth would slow dramatically in 2026, down toward the single digits after years of racing ahead. And its own chief executive told investors, in plain words, that things will get worse before they get better. When the people who run the company, who see the prescription data before anyone, tell you to brace for a hard year, the market listens. That candor is honest and it's brutal, and it's a big part of why a stock that makes a miracle drug kept falling. Now the honest other side, because this is exactly what a fallen champion looks like right before it becomes a bargain. Novo still owns one of the best franchises in all of medicine, a deep pipeline of next-generation obesity drugs, including pills instead of injections. And the entire weight loss market is growing so fast that even a strong number 2 could thrive inside it. At under 12 times earnings, you're paying a decline price for a company that still makes a drug the world is desperate to buy. So the falsifier is precise. Watch whether Novo's next-generation pipeline finally delivers a drug that matches or beats Lilly's, and whether its share of new prescriptions stops falling. If the pipeline answers Lilly, then 12 times earnings will look like a steal. If it doesn't, cheap stays cheap for a reason. So step back. The market is not saying the drug is bad. Ozempic still works and demand is still enormous. It's saying something more precise and more dangerous. The moat cracked. Being first to a category is not the same as owning it. Because being first is only a moat until someone builds something better, and Lilly did. The tell was never the demand headlines or the cultural frenzy. It was the head-to-head trial data and the price. This is the tell for any category creator. A first-mover advantage lasts exactly until a better product arrives. And then the pioneer's cheap valuation isn't automatically a bargain. Sometimes it's the market coldly pricing a permanent number 2. The markets have watched this before. The first search engines gave way to Google. The first smartphones to the iPhone. First invents, best inherits. So, back to the puzzle. Why did the company that made the world's most wanted drug lose half its value? Not because the drug stopped working, but because a fast follower built a better one. The price is collapsing from below, and management itself warned the worst isn't over. Novo is cheap because its moat cracked, not because its demand did. And those are completely different diagnoses. One is a fallen champion that can rise again. The other is a value trap dressed as a bargain. Which one it is won't be settled by the 12 times valuation. It'll be settled in a lab, by whether Novo's next drug can finally beat Lilly's. So the verdict is honest. Too early to call. This is a fallen champion, and the trial data, not the price tag, decides if it gets back up. This is analysis, not advice.